I can hit it if you want.
Yeah, if you would. Oh, wait. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. I guess Melvin already started it. All right. So we're going to start tonight talking about forming the team once you've done all the preliminary work, you've got the project charter, you've got authorization to start. Okay. So with a predictive project, project manager does a lot of things up front. Uh, Puts together the team agreements, structures, processes, and you want to make sure that they allow individuals to work together. They support that, and they also um, are in line with the organization's goals and uh, culture. Okay. With adaptive projects, the team itself assembles, um, team self-organizes, and creates the equivalent of a project charter or a working agreement, as we call it in if you're using agile methods. Okay. Um, Got a question here. How do you think a collaborative team culture can be created in a hybrid approach? And I'd like to hear some examples of that.
This is Sherry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I manage hybrid projects, and the applications normally follow Agile. However, these are network projects, and it typically takes 2 or 3 years to implement these. The
Mm-hmm.
schedule, there's labs, testing, etc.
Okay.
So I create the features or the business requirements. There, we use that word interchangeably. And after hosting multiple meetings with the project team, I I think that pretty much gets everyone um, acclimated to working with others. If that's what you were asking.
Yeah. Yeah. So you use agile methods and the project itself delivers it at times in several years, if I heard you correctly.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
Because yeah, depending on the scope items, the applications need to release at different times. The tech dev applications,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to set up the lab, purchase the equipment, set up the lab, that test in the lab, then the applications test in the lab. So it, that's why it takes a couple of years because then you have to certify your equipment or your software upgrade for your network element. And I guess what I'm trying to say is just creating the features and actually baselining the solution document. Both of those things, you bring in labs and you bring in tech dev, but everyone's involved in that, even the client sponsor, because even they may have to clarify a piece of scope. But normally it's the solution architect and the applications
Okay.
as we are baselining the requirements.
What about the development team itself?
Typically, it's the lead developer, maybe one or two, the SMEs that attend these requirement meetings or the
Mm-hmm.
features. as
Okay.
well as the solution meetings to update the AIS, as we call it, at AT&T.
Okay. Now, once the implementation starts, how what how's the team structured, and how does the team uh, self-organize if they do?
Well, these are well-established application teams.
Oh, okay. All right. So that they have, they've gone through this. Um, I mean, the whole uh, forming the team, and they're really should be pretty well performing then, right?
Yes, that's correct. I've had
Okay.
multiple network projects and it's usually the same applications that are code impacted and or test
Okay.
impacted.
Gotcha. All right. So you're actually using adaptive methods within a hybrid project then.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Great example. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. We've got a short video here. Oh, let me go back and see if I can share with audio. Ah, jeez. All right, let me try this here. I apologize. This is really Chrome tab. All right, this is not letting me also share the audio since I'm running PowerPoint application. All right. Being outside the firewall is is really fun. Okay. I'm going to play the video, and you're going to be entertained by my interpretation of it, okay? So this is from project management. And back in 65, Bruce Tuckman, who's a psychologist, came up with a way of expressing how teams form and get to performing. So there are 4 stages that he originally uh, brought documented, which was forming, storming, norming, and performing. So when you first start out, you know, you go into the forming stage. And that's where everybody meets each other. It's kind of like courting and sparking, where you everybody is really nice to each other. Then you go into the storming stage, where you're trying to get things aligned. Okay, so you may have some arguments, but you finally get the team aligned. Then uh, forming, storming, norming is the next one, where all these things come together. You get all your requirements done in that. The following stage is performing. That's where you're delivering everything. Okay. Then Tuckman came up with a 5th stage in, what did they say, 1977 there, uh, which was adjourning, where the team is broken up. Okay. And, they go on to the next projects. Okay. And that's basically what they said in the video. A few more things, but for what we can do tonight, you're going to have to live with my interpretation. Now, I was also doing some hand gestures that you couldn't see. All right. So a couple of things you need to know about is when you're forming a team, what you want is with adaptive efforts that you want a self-organizing team. That means that the team itself will set their own rules. They'll work together to deliver what's required. And we'll get into much more detail on how the team sets up what they're going to be delivering. Okay. But a self-organizing team, ideally you want a cross-functional team. And what we mean by that is that you want the team to be composed of people who have different talents. You want somebody in the team who knows the application. You want somebody in the team who can test the whatever is developed. You need the developers also. And you may need some subject matter experts if you have to work with a lot of legal requirements or legal requirements. Now, the term that you'll see on the test is servant leadership. Okay? So that the person who is heading the team, and if you're using Scrum, that's the Scrum Master, doesn't do any of the what we call real work. The Scrum Master is a servant leader, which means that he or she uh, puts the team's needs above everything else, so that Scrum Master gets in there, understands what the team's strengths are, if there are any weaknesses that need to be remediated, arranges for training if needed, and concentrates just on the team. Okay. And as they say here, these concepts of self-organizing teams and servant leadership can be applied to any kind of project team. And let's get the exact definition that they use for cross-functional team. And if you don't see these in your student material, feel free to do screen grabs on these things. So a cross-functional team, it's a team that has all the capabilities to deliver the work that they've been assigned or they've signed up for. We'll talk about that.
I'm not seeing anything now.
I'm sorry, what was there a
Are you
question?
sharing something? I'm not seeing your screen right now. I'm only seeing
You're
the
not
name.
seeing your screen? Okay, is everybody else
Yeah, we can
not-
see your screen.
We can see it.
okay? You may need
can see
to drop off and re-log in. Okay,
Yeah, I can see it just fine.
what's that?
I just said I can see it just fine. Looks good.
Okay, great. All right. Now, key concepts to remember: team members can specialize in certain skills. What you really want is a team that has individuals have expertise in at least in one area, but they can do the work no matter what needs to be done within the team. Okay, so but the team is capable of delivering what they've been called on to build. And there's also a definition, I believe, in your student material for self-organizing teams. Okay. One thing you want to keep in mind too, if you're a Scrum Master or if you're a project manager, um, now I heard this somewhere yesterday and it stuck with me, that a good leader doesn't care where the good ideas come from. And especially if you're a servant leader, what you're trying to do is get the best ideas out of the team. Okay, it doesn't matter who comes up with them. Could be the newest team member, could be the oldest team member. It could even be you. But the thing is, it doesn't matter. For a good leader, it doesn't matter who comes up with the ideas. It's that the team embraces them, allows new ideas to incubate within the team. All right, project manager role in adaptive teams. Now, has anyone taken a look at this slide before? Okay, take a minute now and read through what they have for definitions. And I'd like some comments on it. Okay. Any comments on what's on this slide? Does it make sense to you?
So in distributed, the person that may be assigned the team member may not be a project manager.
Well, take a look at the definitions. Do they make sense to you? If you've got centralized decision making,
The definitions make sense, but I personally don't know why a team would use the distributed um, way of organizing or making someone accountable, taking turns being accountable. It's just
okay?
that seems like that wouldn't work well, because wouldn't you have to pass off updates or to-dos to your next person? It won't all be done at one time, or I don't know. That just seems like it's extra work for everyone.
Okay. Um,
It feels like it's like a hub. Both of those are a hub and spoke kind of a visual. You know, as a centralized, you sit in the middle and you are or decentralized. Maybe your tasks are delegated out. I need you to do blue, you to do green, and when you're done with that piece, send it back and I'll put it back together. And you know, in the centralized, you kind of spin around in the middle and collecting all these everything from people. So maybe you are in charge of, you know, east and west and south, and you have to report back on X because I'm responsible for that delivery. It's, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's just how I picture it.
yeah, yeah. So what we're talking about here are two different models. Okay. I really like that hub and scope analogy. And I'm Sorry, I can't send you a shiny new dime, but I'm going to steal it from you if I may.
My gift to you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate gifts. All right. So, question is, if a team is self-organizing, is a project manager needed? If not, which of these models work best? If yes, what does the role look like?
Probably like a Scrum Master, a servant leader,
I'm sorry, could you speak up, please?
like a servant leader, Scrum Master, the new one.
Yeah. I apologize. I'm having a real hard time hearing you. Can someone relay what the gentleman said?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, I can hear you a lot better now.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I was saying like since both the models, right, they have pros and cons. Because if every in centralized, if everybody is practicing leadership, but the accountability is with one person, that won't be a good thing. Another here, second one, where serves as a facilitator to enable communication. So basically, a lot of context switching. So maybe the for productivity of the team that won't be really good, but both the teams have, like for self-organizing, we need every individual to be proactive and contribute to the project. So for me, it looks like the role would be, like more of a servant leader, not exactly as a project manager, but the servant leader role would be fitting for in this model.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, I think the project manager is needed, and even in a self-organizing team. But I would think it would look more like the distributed model, just because I envision maybe like a scrum master or something of that role, that nature, um, facilitating that communication between the team members.
Okay. Yeah, could it depend on what's required for the project?
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as like budgetary responsibilities, uh, things like that, liaising with the project sponsor and some of those areas. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
okay, good. Thank you both. All right. An example of hybrid team formation. Okay, the hybrid team has centralized coordination by a project manager or team lead and self-organized project teams for portions of the work. That's your PMI definition of it. So highlight it, know it, can possibly have a question around that on the exam. All right, project team composition. Um, there's several different ways that the team can be created. Ideally, a project manager is going to be able to choose the people that are needed to implement the project and deliver it, and having the right expertise and the right experience. And then sometimes reality sets in and the project manager gets handed a bunch of people that he or she doesn't know and who may or may not have the right experience, the right expertise, and the ability to deliver whatever the project is. Okay. That's really the second bullet point there. It varies based on organizational culture, location, and scope. Now, one of the things they talk about here is you can have both full-time or part-time members of the team. Okay, so his, excuse me, I'm a little challenged today, but you may have at AT&T historically, architects have been spread across multiple projects. There are some experts who support multiple projects. So that's where you get the part-time members. Okay. So what you want to have in the team are generalists and specialists. So if you have something that needs a certain amount of expertise in a technical area, like when I was working with wireline, we had just a few people who were uh, really good with local number portability, and so you wanted to get somebody like that on the team. They had to support multiple teams at a time, so you need to get the right people in the team. Or the other thing that you can do is, if you've got the time, provide the right training for them. So 4 project team roles: the project management staff, and this can be a PMO and the project manager. The project work staff, those people who are actually delivering the work. And as I just talked about supporting experts who may be most likely going to be part-time on the project, and also the business partners are part of the project team itself. So has anybody heard of T-shaped individuals?
No.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look at the definitions. Okay. Both T-shaped individuals and generalizing specialists. So PMI's definition for generalizing specialists is that it refers to a project team member who has a particular area of deep expertise, but may also have experience in many other areas that may not be directly related to their core area. Okay, so a grizzled veteran may have a lot of expertise in a particular area and have been around where they've worked on multiple projects in multiple environments or multiple departments, so that they've got a good depth of knowledge in other areas too. Okay. And so these team member types are valued on agile projects because of their ability to be interchangeable. One of the keys with a say a Scrum team or a team that uses agile methods is the concept that responsibility can shift. The leads can change depending on the area of expertise and what the problem to be solved is. Okay, so it's very adaptive. That's why we call it an adaptive project. Right. And T-shaped individual is a person whose skill set comprises one area of specialization and broad ability in other skills required by the team. Okay. So if you're T-shaped, you're an expert in one area, or you're, an authority in one area, and you also have enough experience in the other areas that the team needs to be able to contribute wherever is necessary. Okay. So when you're putting together a team, you're talking about the team members themselves, any external contractors or suppliers that you have. And that's going to vary from project to project. And also your physical and intangible assets. Meaning if you've, and I can't see who's talking, the names here, but the young lady who shared up front about the needing the physical equipment that eventually needs to be certified. Now, that would be a physical asset. And we talked about it, intangible assets about a week ago, I believe. Right? So the project manager needs to make sure that the skill sets necessary to deliver the work are part of the team.
Hi,
One
Harry.
of the key,
This is Alonzo.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
Just a quick question, because I'm
yeah.
having some trouble understanding the difference between the generalizing specialist and the T-shape for the purpose of the exam. Because the generalizing specialist is basically saying that they specialize or have deep experience in one area, but they have skills or experience in other areas. And likewise,
Mhm.
the T-shape is kind of the same thing. They specialize in an area, but they have other broad skills that can be used in other areas. So for the purpose of the
Right.
exam, what's the primary difference between the two?
Primary difference is that a generalizing specialist would have a depth of understanding, be an authority in one area that's needed by the team. The generalizing specialist's other experience may be totally not needed by the team, but they may have been around for a long time and had a lot of experience in other areas. The key here with T-shaped is the uh, the broad ability and other skills required by the team. Okay, so they're more they can help out the team in other areas too, not just in the area where they have a depth of expertise.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. Oh yeah, we're going to hit on the avoiding single points of failure. If you can, you want to have a backup on your team for all of the areas where you need expertise. All right. So if you've got to be doing something like billing, okay, you want to be able to have at least two people who are familiar with billing. Okay. Reason that you want uh, multiple people that have the skill set where it's overlapping is that if somebody gets pulled onto another project or uh, heaven forbid they become ill and they're out for a long time. And so you don't want to be struggling to keep the team functioning if you lose a single person. And we talked about cross-functional teams a little bit earlier, where people can do fulfill multiple roles throughout the life of the product development. Okay. And we talked about generalizing specialists, T-shaped people. Right. One of the things that you can take away from this slide is that appropriate physical resources and other requirements are addressed. And no, these examples, you can have physical equipment. For intangible, you can have things like access rights, the right amount of spectrum, uh, you know, being able to, yeah, that'd be under access rights. Whether it's something like a pole mounted antenna or transceiver, or you know, whether or not you need, if you've got a uh, construction project. And remember that a lot of the people who have the PMP certification are in the construction industry. So things like access rights, where you can get to a site, where you're able to put a road down and get the right equipment in, things like that. You know, it's not something that you can touch, but if you don't have it, uh, you're in trouble. Okay. So we're going to dive into some T-shaped people and self-organizing teams. All right. Okay. So if you can become T-shaped, it's an advantage for you, and it's advantage for the team, okay? Because T-shaped individuals can, you know, do a deep dive into certain areas, and they can also help the team, you know, with the expertise needed in other areas, such as if you've got someone who knows, uh, let's use my old one, local number portability, and at the same time, if that person's able to do testing in a different area, or in that area, um, in a different area, um, that's what would constitute someone with a T-shaped ability. Okay. Um, allows organizations to uh, deliver projects with a limited number of people if they can trade off and do various, uh, fill various roles within a project when it's being developed. Um, and also, excuse me, these two last points that they bring up. Um, you know, if there is a resource shortage, if somebody's out for an extended period of time, or you need someone that is unavailable for some time, um, you've got to, you know, you're able to fulfill those roles. Can you excuse me for 1 minute here? I'll be right back.
Sure.
Well, I'm too old and too slow to have gotten that. All right. So also, if you've got the expertise in a particular area, one of the key things that you can do is help train other team members so that you know, your expertise is welcome, and eventually other team members can learn from you, so that you can move on to other projects, or you know, help out in different ways within the existing project team. And what we're looking at here are hybrid and adaptive projects. Doesn't hurt to have T-shaped individuals on a predictive project either. Yeah. Oh, if you're at AT&T, I'm sure you've heard of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going to do too deep a dive on this. But really, it is important to have a diverse composition of the project team to take advantage, and you can take advantage of many different aspects. And I've worked a lot of projects that were handled partially by an offshore team, partially by an onshore team. What we were able to do is have the offshore team deliver uh, parts of an effort at the end of their day, which was the beginning of the onshore team's day. So we were able to take advantage of the time differences. Okay. Also cultural differences. I've worked with teams in Israel where their work week is, uh, let's see, God, it's been a while, hasn't it? Uh, Sunday through Thursday, through Friday at sundown. Okay, so we've been able to take advantage of that in that they're working on a day that the onshore team doesn't work on a Sunday. Okay. Experts and expert judgment. Okay. There are times where you're not going to have everything that you need within the project team, so that you should be able to pull in some people from outside of the project itself, but still within the organization, to answer questions at times, to provide some guidance on things. I mean, especially think about, you usually don't have a lawyer on your team, but if you have legal questions, you should be able to pull in somebody from within the organization to lend a hand on the project itself. Now, a list of uh, people or things like consultants. If there's an area that the entire organization has very little expertise on, you may need to bring in a consultant or two. And, you also want to be able to uh, lean on any of the stakeholders for clarifications on what the team needs to do, how they need to do things if necessary, and you know be able to get those types of questions answered. Professional and technical associations, there you may need to use something like a national standards if you have questions. Be able to inquire to a national standards board or an association like PMI. Okay. And then if you have historical data, and there's a lot of historical data if you're managing construction projects. There's a lot of documentation with those. They've been running predictive projects for literally centuries now. Okay. And one of the things that those projects have are a lot of history that's been recorded. And also, as a project manager, you can lean in, or if you need, consulting with either PMO or another project manager. All right. Has anybody ever heard of SWOT?
Yes.
Okay. Have you used it in your job?
Yes, I had to use it for a presentation for our VP.
Okay. Yeah. It's great when you're able to use a term that a VP knows too. But SWOT is a grid, a 2x2 grid that identifies or documents the strengths, the weaknesses, the strengths and weaknesses of the team. It identifies threats, both internal and external, and opportunities to improve the team performance. Okay. Now, realize that when you have a weakness, with the right training or the right expertise brought into the team, you can turn that into a strength. If you lose particular people from the team, a real strength may turn into a weakness. Okay, so these are not set in stone, or in the construction industry, cast in concrete. So it's a fluid document. Basically, it's a fluid analysis. It doesn't doesn't pay to do it just once. You need to be aware of any of the changes in strengths, any of the changes in weakness, any new threats that are coming in. If a competitor is coming to market with a similar product, you've got to know that. You've got to plan to mediate that risk, and you know, opportunities to improve team performance. Okay, there may be new opportunities, there may be some new free training that you can take advantage of, free to the organization. For example, if you're changing or you're adopting SAFE's Scaled Agile framework for a particular team that the Agile COE at AT&T provides training that is no cost to the departments. Okay, so you can take advantage of things like that. All right, team norms. At the beginning of the project, establish the expected team behaviors. Now, in an agile implementation or a team using agile methods, this is called a working agreement. It's where the team itself puts together the norms for the team itself. Okay. The reason we do this is that there may be some times where, well, there probably will be times later on where you need to refer to what the team has signed up to. Okay. If there's a need for things like overtime and they've signed up for it, sometimes it's a gentle reminder for that. Right. And especially in the working agreements, the guidelines and techniques for meetings, what we mean by guidelines. For example, if you have a daily stand-up, guideline is that you start on time. It's no more than 15 minutes. Everything that cannot be contained in the 15 minutes is handled at what we call a meet after. Okay, where the right people get together and the entire team's time is used most effectively. Okay. Techniques. Meetings may need to be virtual. They may need to be a hybrid where a certain portion of the team is co-located and the rest of the team is somewhere else. Okay. What types of communications are necessary and how do you need to do that? Is it satisfactory if it's okay, or okay to use something like a Kanban board, whether it's physical or virtual, to convey where the team is at any point in time? Or do you need to do the classic project meetings where you deliver status to uh, a director or above on a regular basis? And really, how do you do that? What are they looking for? Is it something like a stoplight chart? Is it a narrative? Is it uh, having a single throat to choke and standing in front of a room of VPs and answering all their questions? How you do that. Conflict management, what we're talking about there is if there's a disagreement within the team, okay, how do you handle that? Okay. Set up the norms should include that in ways of mitigating that so that the team needs to agree to, if, say, for example, the majority, the team goes with the majority opinion, and whether they agree to it or not. Okay, that's what we're talking about with conflict management. Documenting the values this team shares and the way that decisions are made. Now, you do realize that PMI has a code of ethics and professional conduct, and team values need to be aligned with that. And it's within AT&T, it's pretty darn easy to do because the code of conduct really follows. It is parallel to the PMI code of ethics and professional conduct. Okay. Here we go. PMI code of ethics and professional conduct. Who can tell me what the 4 values that drive ethical conduct for the project management for Fortune are? Here's a hint.
Would
Look
they
at
be
the
the
right
ones
side
that
of the
are
screen.
listed?
Yep, the ones that are listed. Okay, but you need to know what they are and how they apply to a real world context in the exam that's being delivered today. Start a little bit about team charter and ground rules. What we're talking about here specifically are hybrid and predictive projects. Okay. So the team charter is a document. It can be anything from, an electronic document, a paper document that everyone has access to, or a whiteboard or poster of the ground rules in a co-located team area. Okay. So it's the project manager's responsibility, and the team charter and ground rules are created with the team. Right? You've got to have their buy-in, the individual's buy-in, and their so that you don't want to dictate to them what they need to do. You remind them of their boundaries. If what they want to include in there in the team charter or the ground rules needs to be modified. Okay, so I'm not going to drain the slide here. These are components of a team charter and ground rules. We'll get into that a little bit more few minutes here. Even quicker. Team charter example, you should have this in your student materials. And all of the components that we talked about before. A list of the team members, the amount of budget that we have. So it's basic information about the team. Okay, what they've agreed to. So ground rules here, as they highlight, are under the team guidelines and communication. Okay. All right. In this case, it's a 2-page document, and that's it. This is the whole thing for a team charter. Now, team communications. You're going to have to, I mean, the biggest thing with the project is communicating the right information to the right individuals. Team members need to know what the, say, product owner, the person responsible for the product itself, wants to accomplish. Okay? You've got to be able to use various ways of communication, talking with people, writing things down and passing it along. Historically, that's been used in waterfall, where you start with requirements, go into design, and then implementation. Behavioral is, especially if teams are co-located, that more is usually said by a person's expression and way of carrying themselves than whatever they're saying. I can say things, 2 things, and one, say it one time with a sneer and another time with a smile. And no matter if they're the same words, you get 2 different meanings from it. Okay. Physical, the notice boards, also consider that with virtual, where you're using tools to have something like a Kanban or a status board. All right. The big thing here on the right side is checking regularly to make sure that the right information is being communicated to the right people in the right manner at the right time. Okay. One of the keys, and especially with adaptive projects, is retrospectives, especially after there's a deliverable. Okay. Ideally, with an adaptive project, you're delivering something every 2 weeks. So at the end of that 2 weeks, you have a retrospective. With a predictive project, should have a retrospective at each of the gates that you establish. Okay, a retrospective after requirements, retrospective after design, to see how things can improve the next time. Yes. Question, what kind of team are you on? Virtual team, co-located team, or hybrid?
You were asking anyone?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, we've got to have some fun and share stuff in these classes, because I hate just reading slides. I'd like to give people an opportunity to think and to share.
Well, I I'm on a virtual team only because I am the only one that works outside of the state. Everybody else works in the same area in the same state. So I'm the only one that's actual virtual, but most of my team is co-located.
Okay, they're in the same physical
Hmm.
building? Okay,
They are, yeah.
okay. Anybody work with on a team that's totally co-located? Yeah, that's with AT&T, that's less prevalent. Um, Now I know software development under Jeremy Legg has moved to either Dallas or Atlanta, Bedminster, or Bothell. So there are some efforts that have co-located teams there. Depending on the work, you may have some people who were co-located, as the young lady just mentioned, and others who are virtual. Okay. So there's some strengths and weaknesses here. A co-located team, interaction's easy. You can put up posters, you can have meetings together, you can meet at the water cooler. Yeah. So bonding is really facilitated. When I worked at Motorola, where everybody was located in the same room, I mean, we had beer league softball, and just everybody was right there. We had a lot of interaction, we had a lot of socialization. So the projects, the communication within the projects was a lot easier. So it's said here that you can use physical tools, uh, rather than having to have electronic or virtual. So some of the challenges with virtual teams um, is the bonding, the having team members uh, work together, and like on a basketball team, for example, WNBA comes to mind this year. Uh, I've watched I watched some of the Indiana Fever games, and you could see from the beginning of the season to the end of the season how the players interacted more effectively with each other. Okay. But if you're not co-located, and it's kind of tough for a basketball team, those bonding opportunities just may not present themselves. Okay. Now, some of the advantages of a virtual team, you can pull in better skills at a lower cost because you don't have to relocate people. You don't have to, fly them in for some temporary work. When anybody was anybody around during the UVerse days?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everybody came together in Hoffman Estates. Right, we had hundreds of people who were flown in
Yep.
or drove in. Okay,
We had
to be
quarterly meetings with our leadership all the way
yeah,
up to vice president level.
yep. That that was the old days. The only way that you had somebody outside of Hoffman Estates was on the phone, and the telecommunication setups were marginal at best. Um, there were a couple of times where I had to um, participate in meetings where I had to be on the phone. only, and it was just a nightmare because there was a lot of background noise. People were chatting and working problems that it was very difficult to participate in. Yeah. So, if you have the right telecommunication technology, yeah, you can do it easily. You can pull everybody together in a call like this. You can share slides. You can have whiteboards that you use to take notes and work on problems. Is this the definition that we have here? Yes. Virtual team and co-location. We've trained that. So some of the challenges of virtual teams: individual performance tracking. Um, yeah. People are professionals. And we learned during COVID that productivity didn't slack off at all. Okay. Some of the other challenges with diversity: language may be a challenge, and skill with the technology may not be even across the entire team. Okay. And if you're working solo, and I haven't experienced too many efforts where it's just one person working on it. It is tough to bond with the rest of the team. All right, who's worked with a virtual team? We should have just about everybody. Who would like to share what are your tips for creating a positive virtual team experience?
Take the time to get to know the individuals on a personal level, right? Before you start working on a project, get to know them, get to know what they enjoy, get to know what motivates them, right?
Yep, that's a good thing to do. Anybody else?
I would say get get a good understanding of what the expectations are. Like you said, get to know who you're going to be working with and try to form a relationship, because I think that makes a project a lot easier, especially when you run into difficult times. It makes it a lot easier to try to have a conversation and get away from, just the regular, this is where it had to be. And, you can get a better understanding of where the person is and where they're coming from.
Great, some great examples. One of the big things is checking in with people individually as often as possible, because I was one of just a few people who were not co-located, the team I worked with. And when everybody would meet in a single room, there was a lot of side conversations, and it was at times difficult to get an idea out. And so if you've got virtual meetings, take the time and poll, figure out how the team's doing. Right. And the other thing is network building activities. As I think two individuals mentioned, that you know uh, the Agile COE, when we had a lot of people who were remotely located, we'd have after work parties, virtual after work parties. And kind of got ruined by this one guy because he always did the after work stuff while he was in this pool. So there's, you know, just kidding about that. It was interesting to see, you know, how different people handled it. All right. I've been talking for a heck of a long time. So can we take, say, 1 minute and just stretch? If you're able to stand up, just move your arms, get some blood flowing.
Absolutely.
I can hum syncopated clock if you want. Do, 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 do. All right. Do we can we start up again? I'm going to default to yes unless I hear something else. Okay. We all know about these. We've gone through COVID-19, and these slides were under construction when the pandemic hit. So, um, you know, planning team communication and collaboration methods. You know, how are you going to get it done? I talked about having different working hours, um, being in different parts of the world, and one of the key factors too is security and what the security requirements are for your project. Yeah. Everybody at AT&T uses this, you know, video conferencing, uh, mutual calendars, task boards, things like that. And I need people to poke me in the ribs virtually if I'm taking too much time on any one slide, because I tend to do that. Um, addressing virtual team member needs. Um, and what you really need is for virtual team members to be included in what the rest of the team's doing. Okay, so that they feel that working remotely is not a hindrance to their performance, especially. Some of the things that if you're in a safe, using a safe framework, this is drummed into you. You know, cohesion with all the team members, making sure that they get to participate, that they share responsibilities and are able and working together. Shared goals. And one of the big things with uh, adaptive methods, if you have an agile implementation, and especially with the safe implementation, you put together shared goals. You know what you're supposed to be doing over the next interval of time. Okay. You need clarity and in both the purpose and the roles and expectations. Okay, so again, this is all communications. Okay, you want to make sure that the communications occurs at the right time, to the right people, and in the right format. And that includes team members too. All right. We've finished with the first part of tonight. So these are the areas of the ECO that we've covered. Make sure you go back through this and do some mapping. All right. Because the ECO is going to outline all this stuff. Make sure that you're able to address each of these areas. Okay, and understand where what we've been talking about tonight relate to that. All right. Let's dive into building shared understanding. All right. Before the beginning of the project, what you need to be doing is, well, it is before the project, but the first part of the project, making sure that team members, all your sponsors, all your stakeholders have a clear, common view of what needs to be delivered, and you're able to document that. So you're going to end up with a project charter, and ideally, you've got a project vision statement. Okay? And this is really put together by the key stakeholders. Now, where is this product going? Or how does this project fit in a particular market, or what needs to be delivered? All right. Again, talking about communications, we're building a shared understanding of what the project goals are, what needs to be delivered, when they need to be delivered, and communicating back what resources are necessary to implement that particular portion or complete project, as far as physical equipment or any intangible assets. As a project manager, if you're in charge of this, you really need to have good negotiation skills, because you're going to be talking with some pretty high ups who are sponsoring or stakeholders in this project. Okay, and we talked about many agreements, team, ways of working, things like that, but they're all living documents. So based on the current state, you need to examine all of the agreements that have been made and make sure that they're still in line. Okay. All right. So as I said before, the project vision statement is created by a project sponsor or executive and includes a clear vision of the desired objectives and alignment with the organization's strategic goals. All right. If you have a predictive project, you need to refer to it throughout the project to make sure that you're still on track, that you're properly aligned. Ideally, if you're using adaptive methods, you would have a project sponsor whenever you're doing a particular planning interval to reiterate what the goals are, or if the goals have changed. I mean, the market may change while you're doing the implementation, so you want to be as adaptive as possible. So as a project manager, you have to have a good, really good understanding of the entire project. Where does it fit in with something else? I'll go back to the UVerse examples. There were so many interactions between subsystems that it wasn't funny. What a good project manager is able to do is understand where his or her area fits in with the other pieces, what the expectations are, you know, as far as functionality and time. And, you know, whether or not anything is eligible for discussion or they say here troubleshooting, but you know, negotiating what the project team needs and what they can deliver. Okay. So you're doing a dive in here and finding these things out. Then you get into how the project fits in with the rest of the organization and the business objectives. All right. Well, how do you go about that? How do you go about understanding more about the project and where it fits in? So one basic thing is talking with stakeholders to understand what their goals are, question them, you know, about anything that doesn't seem to be aligned. Okay, and you know, work with the sponsor to make sure that there's a clear vision statement. You know, they may come up with something and has a lot of meaning to them, but there may be something lost in translation down at the project team level. Okay. Need to do some homework where you can understand more by looking at any contracts with external parties, any MOUs, SLAs that have been issued or required, any of the letters of agreement or intent with a contractor or with other parts of your organization. You know, if there are any verbal agreements on the 19th hole of a golf course, you need to dig those out too. Okay. Any statements of work. The the communication between key stakeholders, you may or may not be able to dig into. You know, they may have some proprietary things that they're discussing. But if they're willing to share, you know, any of the communications with other stakeholders, take advantage of that and use it to add to your understanding. All right. The other things are referring to business cases and or business need documents. Business cases are what gets a project authorized. It's a projection on the what the project revenue can be, what the benefits are, why we're doing the project. Okay, I mean, business case can be as right as let's see, business case for doing cellular phones where they were figuring that there'd be 100,000 customers over the life of the product. Yeah. Not everybody was going to want a cellular phone or could afford one. Right. And then if you have documents for the business needs, identifying high-level deliverables, these come before a formal business case. This is outlining what needs to be done, okay, what needs to be delivered. And you can get requirements from that and determine what needs to be created and if performance has to be enhanced. All right. Anybody worked with KPIs, key performance indicators?
I have, all that referred to, and I think of it as an alarm or a trap. If the element or let's say software doesn't perform as expected.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really familiar with with the general definition of a KPI. I just know that
Okay.
that's referred to on our network projects.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at the formal definition here. So key performance indicators are a set of metrics used to evaluate a project, an organizational unit, or a project team's performance against the project vision and objectives. Note that KPIs can be time bound. You may need to deliver something within a certain period of time. For example, with the case study of the center, the shop center that was delivered with your student bundle, they had to have occupancy by a particular date. Okay, that can be a key performance indicator, being able to deliver within a certain date. If you've got a general construction project, there may be a bonus associated with delivering ahead of schedule. Okay, so your key performance indicators need to be tracking those things. Right. So you can interview stakeholders to get an idea of what the KPIs are, and talk to some friends or some people who have some idea is from similar projects on whether or not you can deliver. Okay, and what the criteria have been for their projects. Okay. List of things you need to check, KPIs, lessons learned in historic data, whatever the quality policy is for the organization, and I've heard it mentioned a couple of times today, user acceptance testing requirements. With adaptive, we have what's called a definition of done. It can be addressed for iteration outputs, and you can also have a definition of done for the entire project. You can even dig down to where you're talking about individual parts of the project. For example, if developing a piece of software, when is it done? Has all the testing been done on that particular unit? Does it interface with the rest of the components that you have to work with? Things like that. Then predictive, what you can use KPIs for is tracking the project basically, and reporting on any variations from what's been laid out in the KPIs. All right. So how do you help everybody understand the vision? All right. As a project manager, you're going to be making sure that the communications are established, the paths, and that any of the questions that the team has, take it back to the stakeholders. Okay. With adaptive methods, has anybody ever heard of a product box exercise?
No.
Okay. What it is basically taking like a shoebox or cereal box and putting the vision on that so the people can see where the whole project fits in with the organization, what it's delivering, what the success criteria are. Okay. And then extreme programming uses a technique that's called metaphor. Okay, it's used to explain a complex idea in simple, familiar terms using common language and vocabulary. The example here is the shop life center or living center is the living room of Oasis Town. And so it gives you a visual as to what you're going to be delivering. Okay. And got a couple more formal definitions. Let you read them. I'll take any questions. Okay. Uh, oh, excuse me. You as project manager, do you have agreement on the project agreements? And so that the key thing to take away from this is there's no single way to create a project charter, but every project needs to have one. Now this is above the team charter. Okay, we took a look at the team charter earlier, and that was a 2-page document. Okay, project charter. Now, what it does and why it's important. It really is a document that comes from management and product management that authorizes the project itself. It'll have excerpts from business case. There'll be other entries in that that you know shows why we're going to expend this many resources on this particular project. Also verifies the alignment with strategic goals, making sure that everybody has a clear project vision and everyone can see how it aligns with strategic goals. Now, Ideally, within a project, it enables the project manager to apply resources to project work. Okay, so within AT&T, you get a particular budget. You have to have approval for most everything that is spent on capital equipment or anything like that. When I worked with Motorola as a section manager, I could sign off on anything $50,000 or under of capital equipment. So things differ between companies. All right. So project charter is usually created by project sponsor or project manager with executive or stakeholder approval. Okay. Sometimes a statement of work can serve as a project charter. And let's see what our definition is here. All right. I'll let you read that. And if you need, screenshot it. And the key thing here is the authority for the project manager to apply organizational resources to project activities. Be as simple as authorizing use of certain lab equipment or the purchase of additional equipment that's necessary. Let's take a look here. And I do need to take this call. Sorry. Okay. So you've had ample time to take a look at what's included in a project charter. Any questions on this? Now remember, this is a much higher level document. This is what kicks off a project. All right. Here's an example, single page. It gives some key dates, it gives funding, it identifies what the scope is, events, things like that. Okay. Notice that it minimizes the work for the higher ups. You can take that editorial out, but yeah. Okay. Any questions on the charter? No? Okay. All right. And we're winding up here. What we have for a project is a kickoff meeting. Okay, what you want is to bring the right people together to establish the project context. Okay. Ideally, all the team members would be able to attend so that they get a common vision of what needs to be delivered and when. Within a safe framework, there's really a kickoff meeting for each of the planning intervals. Okay, you're going to get the vision there. You're going to get all of the information that with a predictive project, you're going to do this once. Okay. Um, things that will be discussed in there: announcing project initiation, sharing the understanding of high level vision, purpose, and value, identify who's who, like the sponsor, the key stakeholders, and the project manager, so everybody knows who everybody else is. Okay. And you may be able to include some high level items from the project charter, such, such as some of the goals. Right. So when you have, you want to have a kickoff meeting for the team too. An overview of the project charter, clarification of team member roles and responsibilities. This, especially with an adaptive effort or a hybrid, that can change too, from planning interval to planning interval. Okay. Presenting the results of planning efforts. With adaptive, you're going to be initiating the product backlog, and presenting the product roadmap. All right, ECO coverage again. One exercise is to map it out. Go back through the slides and see where these points were addressed. It's something you can discuss with your mentors. You have your mentoring time. Okay. And that's it for today.
Thank you, Harry.
I'll take any questions.
Yeah.
All right. Melvin, can you stop the recording?
I have a question. So if you could go back to the slides, there was a slide for, and I don't remember